At 60 meters below the surface of the Red Sea, your blood starts to lie to you. Nitrogen, the gas that makes up most of every breath you've ever taken, dissolves into your bloodstream under pressure and crosses into the fatty tissue of your brain. Your neurons can't fire the way they used to. Your judgment thins out like paper in water. Divers call it the rapture of the deep because it doesn't feel like dying. It feels like joy. It feels like the answer to a question you forgot you were asking. Men have offered their regulators to passing fish. Men have unbuckled their own weight belts and watched, fascinated, as the floor of the world fell away beneath them. One man, on a tape that still exists, looked up at the surface he would never reach again and started to laugh. The place. On the eastern coast of the Sinai Peninsula, in the small Egyptian town of Dahab, there is a hole in the seabed. It is roughly circular. It is roughly 130 meters deep. From above, in the right light, it looks like a perfect ink spot pressed against the turquoise of the reef. Locals call it the Blue Hole. Divers call it something else. They call it the Divers' Cemetery. The era. Dahab in the 1980s was a Bedouin fishing village with no electricity and no paved road in. Backpackers found it. Then divers found it. By the 1990s, the dive shops were lined 3 deep along the shoreline, renting tanks for the price of a meal. There were no quotas, no certification checks. No one stopping a 22-year-old with 40 logged divees from strapping on a single tank of air and swimming straight down into a hole that has killed more people than any other dive site on Earth. Estimates run from 130 confirmed dead to more than 250. No one knows the real number because the Blue Hole does not always give the bodies back. The geometry. To understand how it kills, you have to understand the shape of it. The Blue Hole is a submarine sinkhole formed millions of years ago when a limestone cavern collapsed in on itself. The opening sits just a few meters from shore. You can walk into it from the beach. The first 6 meters are bathwater warm. The reef around the rim is alive with parrotfish and clownfish and the slow drift of soft coral. It looks like a postcard. It looks like a swimming pool God forgot to drain. And then, at 56 meters down, there is a tunnel. The arch. The arch is a horizontal passage through the outer wall of the hole. It is roughly 26 meters long. The top of the arch sits at 56 meters of depth. The bottom of the arch sits at 103 meters. On the other side, the open Red Sea, with sunlight coming down through the blue in long, slow ladders. It is the most beautiful tunnel in diving, and it is the reason most of the bodies are down there. Because to swim the arch on regular compressed air, the kind in the tanks the dive shops rent for $20, you have to descend to a depth where the human brain does not work correctly. Nitrogen narcosis sets in hard at 50 meters. By 60, divers report the sensation that the rules of physics no longer apply to them. By 70, some of them forget what the gauges on their wrist are for. And the arch is deeper than people think. The standard miscalculation goes like this. A diver descends to 56 meters, the top of the arch. They look for the opening. They cannot find it because in the gloom and the narcosis their depth perception is wrong and the opening is below them, not in front of them. So they go deeper. 60 meters, 65, 70. By the time they realize they have passed the arch, they are at a depth where their air supply is being consumed 4 times faster than at the surface, and their brain is telling them everything is fine. The Lipski tape. In April of 2000, a 22-year-old Israeli diving instructor named Yuri Lipski strapped a video camera to the top of his helmet and entered the Blue Hole alone. He was a strong swimmer. He had logged hundreds of dives. He was wearing a single tank of standard compressed air, which is the wrong gas for the depth he was attempting, but it was the gas everyone used. The camera was running the whole time. The first 3 minutes of the tape are calm. You can hear his breathing. You can see the reef wall sliding past in the beam of his torch. You can see his depth gauge ticking down. At 90 meters, something goes wrong. He stops descending. He looks at his gauges. His breathing changes. It gets faster. It gets ragged. It starts to make a sound that does not belong to a man who is in control of his situation. At 91 meters, his hand reaches up toward his regulator and then stops mid-motion, as if he forgot what he was trying to do. At 92 meters, the camera tilts up. He is looking at the surface. The surface is a small bright disk, 90 vertical meters above him. He starts to swim toward it. But he is weighted heavy, and the tank on his back is dragging him, and he is breathing so fast now that he is not actually getting air, he is just moving his chest, because at that depth, a single breath of compressed air contains 10 times the gas it does at the surface, and his body does not know what to do with it. At 95 meters, he stops swimming. The camera keeps running for another 23 minutes. The wall. On the cliff above the Blue Hole, on the eastern side, there is a wall of stone. It faces the water. Every flat surface of it has a plaque cemented to it, or a portrait painted onto it, or a name carved into the rock. There is a plaque for Yuri Lipski. There is a plaque for a French diver named Bruno, 28 years old, who died at the Arch in 1997. There is a plaque for a Czech diver named Martin, 32, who died at the Arch in 2004. There is a plaque for a British diver named Stephen, 26, who died at the Arch in 2009. There are dozens more. Some of them have photographs. Most of the photographs show young men, smiling in their wetsuits, on the day they pass their certification. The dates on the plaques cluster: April, October, the shoulder seasons when the water is warm and the tourists come. The locals do not maintain the wall. The families of the dead maintain the wall. Every year, someone flies into Sharm el-Sheikh, drives an hour up the coast, and cements another name into the rock. The wall is the only honest sign at the Blue Hole. The dive shops do not put up warnings. The Egyptian government does not put up warnings. There is no fence. There is no gate. There is a small Bedouin cafe 50 meters from the rim where you can order tea and a shisha and watch new arrivals strap on their tanks. The biology. Here is what is happening to a body at 100 meters. The pressure is 11 atmospheres. Every gas in the breathing mixture is dissolved into the bloodstream at 11 times the concentration it would be at the surface. Nitrogen, normally inert, is now a sedative, then an anesthetic, then a poison. Oxygen, which keeps you alive at sea level, is now a toxin that can trigger a grand mal seizure with no warning. Carbon dioxide, which the body normally exhales, now builds up in the lungs faster than the diver can clear it, because the dense compressed gas is harder to move in and out. The diver feels heavy, then drunk, then frightened, then, briefly, calm. The calm is the worst part. The calm is the brain accepting that the situation cannot be solved. Some divers in this calm remove their masks. Some of them spit out their regulators. They are not trying to die. They are trying to wake up from what feels like a dream. If they convulse from oxygen toxicity, the convulsion lasts roughly 2 minutes. The jaw locks shut. The diaphragm contracts and does not release. The regulator falls from the mouth. The mouth fills with water. The lungs fill with water. Drowning at 100 meters is the second thing that happens to you. It is not the first. The first is that you stop being you. The count. The total death toll at the Blue Hole is contested because Egyptian authorities have an economic interest in not counting. The dive industry in Dahab is hundreds of millions of dollars a year. A death is an inconvenience. A death is a paragraph in a tourist guidebook that nobody wants printed. The most credible counts, kept by independent dive instructors and by the keepers of the memorial wall, put the number above 200. Some say closer to 300. The youngest confirmed victim was 19. The oldest was 61. In a single year, 2009, 8 divers died at the Blue Hole. Most of them were attempting the Arch. Most of them were on standard air. Most of them were certified to 50 meters and chose to go to 100. Most of them did not come up. The ones who did come up came up slowly in the arms of recovery divers, sometimes weeks later, sometimes never. The Red Sea, at depth, is cold and dark and salt-heavy. It does not preserve bodies the way fresh water does. The body that does not get recovered in the first few days is usually not recoverable. The dog. In 2017, a stray dog that lived around the dive sites of Dahab developed a habit of swimming out into the Blue Hole. The dog's name was Conrad. He was a brown and white street dog, friendly with the divers, fond of swimming. He would paddle out from the beach, circle a few times above the deep blue circle of the sinkhole, and paddle back. Tourists filmed him. He had something like a fan club. One day Conrad swam out and did not come back. Divers searched for him. They found his body floating at 20 meters down, inside the hole. He had not drowned at the surface. He had been pulled down. The Blue Hole has a slow, almost imperceptible downwelling current at certain tides, a current strong enough to drag a dog under, a current that has been suggested as a contributing factor in some of the human deaths. The current does not appear on any official chart. They buried Conrad on the cliff. His plaque is on the wall, next to the divers. The truth. Here is what is confirmed about the Blue Hole. It is approximately 130 meters deep. The arch is real and is at 56 meters. The death toll is real and is the highest of any recreational dive site on the planet. The Lipski tape is real and is held by the Israeli police and has been seen by accident investigators and a handful of journalists. The wall of memorial plaques is real and grows by 2 or 3 names every year. Here is what is legend. The whispers among Bedouin elders that the hole is cursed, that something at the bottom calls divers down to it, that the locals will not swim there even in daylight. These are stories, and they have been embellished by every backpacker who ever wrote a blog post about Dahab. The truth is more mundane and more terrible. The Blue Hole is not cursed. The Blue Hole is a normal piece of submarine geology behaving the way submarine geology behaves. The reason it has killed 200 people is not supernatural. The reason it has killed 200 people is that 200 people went down there on the wrong gas, in the wrong condition, with the wrong training, and the hole did exactly what physics said it would do. The cliff above the wall does not need a curse to fill itself with names. It just needs another summer. The closer. Most of the people on the memorial wall did not die because they were reckless. They died because they were average. They had average training. They had average judgment. They went a little bit deeper than they should have, on a gas they had used 100 times before, and the math caught them. The Blue Hole is a place where the line between a beautiful dive and a fatal one is about 4 meters of vertical descent. 4 meters, the height of a ceiling. Right now, today, as you watch this, there is someone strapping on a single tank of compressed air in Dahab, taking a selfie at the rim, walking into the water. Statistically, most of them will come back. Some of them will not. The wall above them will accept the new plaque the way it has accepted every other one. So here is the question the Blue Hole asks, and you do not get to dodge it. Would you take the tank, and the gauges and the briefing, and trust that you are the one who would not narc, the one who would not panic, the one who would find the arch on the first pass and swim through it into the open sea on the other side? Or have you already trusted yourself like that, somewhere else in your life, on something that wasn't water, and is the only reason you're still here that nobody handed you a gauge that day?